class number two. May I introduce Harmanjot? We met several years ago and just instantly connected. She is one of my go-to galactic sisters. Harmanjot and I have done everything from her amazing Kundalini classes. In fact, she invited me on her beautiful retreat that she hosted in the Amalfi Coast right after my mom died. And I found myself just, waking up on the Kundalini schedule, 4 a.m., doing all of that breath work, doing all of that chanting, the singing, going and swimming in the ocean. It was such a healing time. I'm so grateful to you for that, sweetheart. And as well as all the times that she's showed up for Double J, she came and helped us inaugurate our first store in Taormina. And she was, our spirit sister on the trip and holding classes for the group that was there. We've done lots of different things together. I mean, she and I have stomped our rage out literally on the beaches of Malibu and shocked all the men and all the surfers around us, like with absolute, authentic and unbridledness. And it's just, as she was saying before, it's just so beautiful to have those people in your life that you can really just be real and true with. And each one of us, I think, does that for the other. And I really encourage all of you guys to make those kinds of friendships in your life where people are not trying to change you or look at you like you're crazy when you're expressing your dark emotions or whatever. It's just such a beautiful thing to have people who can hold the space and to know the difference about who you can share when you're having a tough time and who's really just not capable of holding that space for you. So Harmanjot, I think you're amazing. She's a Kundalini teacher. She channels lots of wonderful, galactic consciousness. She's also an amazing detox guide. I think that what Harmanjot brings to this party is our relationship with our bodies and the very real job we need to do of anchoring in spirit into these 3D vessels we have and working on integration. So what she and I wanted to do a little bit of talking before we start into the practice is really just talk a little bit about shadow. And I did want to maybe prompt this, Harmanjot, with, there was a lot of questions last week about like, what exactly is shadow? How do I find my shadow? And upon reflection, when I woke up the next morning, you guys, I was like, oh, maybe I didn't really explain all of that as well as I could have. So I wanted to just take like a minute here to just say and to repeat that your shadow are the aspects of you that you reject. So they're things that you're either rejecting consciously, meaning I really don't like that about myself and I'm going to avoid it at all costs, or they're parts of you that you're rejecting that you're not even aware of. Okay, so some of these things are like completely subconscious. And, there was a good question last week also about what's the difference between a weakness and a shadow. I like to think of them as kind of like cousins, because a weakness is fine as long as you're aware of it and dealing with it. But when you have a weakness and you're doing everything in your power to run away from it and not face it, then that's the shadow at work. Okay. So it's the same thing with the dark emotions. Like there's a lot of so-called quote unquote dark emotions. So those would be all the things that are like the opposite of how we actually want to feel, right? So it's the anger, it's the pain, it's the rage, jealousy, all of that. In and of themselves, these emotions are not bad. What becomes quote unquote unhelpful is either our resistance to them, our rejection from them, or our reactivity to them. So I'll just give you an example. Like if your anger is coming on and you respond by like punching someone in the face, then that's the shadow at work. But the anger itself is not a problem. The anger needs to be felt. It needs to be metabolized. So Harmanjot, I wanted to kind of start there and see if you wanted to add on to anything that I said right there. Does that make sense to you? And let's play here in this realm for a minute, if that feels right.
Totally. Well, just as you're saying, like the anger itself is not the problem. A lot of times we talked about this, earlier today when we had our little check-in call, is our tolerance, our ability to have these emotions and not react and not freak out, not try to shut them down in some way. So punching somebody in the face is actually, I can't handle being angry. I want to stop this anger. The only way I know how to stop the anger is to retaliate. That is helpful for me. Or let's give it like a more feminine example, because we're not all women on this call, but there are a lot of women. I'm afraid of aging. Therefore, I'm going to do everything in my power to not get old. But it is a non-reality that we are going to, like, we can't freeze ourselves in time. So we're like hiding from the fact that actually maybe there's beauty inside of who I really am right now. Or, maybe there's a way that I can find love in all moments in this time. But we're the fear, the hiding, the rejection, all of that is where I think we start to go into the negative aspect of the shadow, because it starts running you instead of, I have this feeling,
Absolutely.
I didn't like seeing gray hair. Like, what am I going to do about that?
I know. And so much of it is just like, as you said, like developing that tolerance muscle for things that are uncomfortable for us. Um, and I think some people have better systems just upon birth for tolerating discomfort than other people do. I don't know what your experience is with that, but
Certainly. I mean, certainly there are ways that there are like sort of prenatal tools for creating a healthy, strong nervous system. Not all of us got born that way. And so then there are tools like that we're going to uncover throughout this entire sisterhood program that help to rebuild the nervous system. Did you, not come from a mom who was like doing everything right, which who can? It's so hard to do it all right. Or if you were that mom, there are ways to rebuild your nervous system. And certainly you talked about it in the first call as well, where it's also about the diet. Nothing degenerates the nervous system like sugar. And it's so polite how sugar enters the nervous system, like, and enters the diet. It's just a polite little bit of sugar. And then all of a sudden it's just like part of your, and I'm not a sugar shamer, because that sugar is a part of Ayurvedic healing. So I am like, I don't shame sugar, but we just want to we're getting into a space of awareness now. That's my thing. It's just being aware of what's regenerating you, what's degenerating you, what helps widen your capacity to deal inside of all of it, what decreases your capacity to be inside of all of it.
yeah, for sure. And one thing I also, I was also just thinking of maybe other tools or tips for people to kind of poke around in their own self introspection to kind of find those shadow areas. And one thing that I thought is helpful is for people to spend a little bit of time journaling and contemplating the areas in their life that they are most embarrassed about, most ashamed of, that maybe the things that Karen Dobin, baby, I think you need to go on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking to my dog.
We love
Sorry,
you and your
honey.
dog
I
so
love you.
much. I'm so happy. Perfect. And what are you hoping that nobody ever discovers about you? I mean, really use that as a journal prompt. I mean, we all have those like deep, dark embarrassments and secrets that are like literally from that thing that happened when you were 5 and that you're like still carrying around in your little suitcase, your invisible suitcase. Where is it that you are controlling things? Look in your day where you're trying to control yourself, other people. Where are you trying to control emotions? And what are you trying to resist? So those would be kind of prompts that I would invite you to contemplate as you're trying to like do a deep dive around this area of like, what exactly are my shadows? Because there was a lot of questioning around that.
Yeah, and JJ, do we want to take any other questions from the group? Do we want to start with the meditation? I feel personally a little bit like the impetus to get into a somatic practice, so it's not too mental.
Yeah, I think that's where we need to go. That's what I would do. And I want to just remind everyone, I said it last week, I just want to repeat it because she's a warrior. Harmanjot lost her home in the Pacific Palisades fire and is homeless, possessionless, just went through an incredibly traumatic experience. So her showing up and giving and allowing herself to be present, allowing herself to be a teacher in this moment when she herself feels so wobbly and weak, that is a transformation of the shadow. That's like the light coming through. So I just want to honor you, baby. And we are so here for you and you're here for us. So let's do it. Let's jump in.
I mean, if there's a time where these kinds of practices become extraordinarily relevant and useful, I think it's in this moment. I also just want to say that I know that like these fires in Los Angeles, I mean, they're catastrophic. The magnitude is just unbelievable, but everything is happening for everyone all over the world all the time. And whether you live in Los Angeles or not, something is happening in your world that is just as huge for you. And your journey is extraordinarily important. And so that's why this body of tools has been immense for me. I want to get into the practice. I just want to preface a couple more things. So what I want to do today is really work on the nervous system depth so that you have the tolerance to be able to sit in uncomfortable emotions like anger, like shame, like, frustration, and then find out what's underneath that. And that's the alchemical journey, which is we're going into the dark. We're not going to stay there. We are going to transmute it. But we can't just stay in the light. It's a small room. We want to keep expanding. So in order to expand, you have to go into the spaces that are a little bit murky and find out, well, what's underneath that? Where's this light switch? Where can I turn on the light? What can I clean up inside? What can I clean up outside? I need to find out more. Most people don't have the tolerance to sit in that kind of discomfort, so they never discover it. And tolerance is not about just like putting up with something. I think when we hear the word tolerance, you're like, I'm just going to put up with it. You're like, that is not functional. I mean, you can sort of white knuckle it and sometimes you have to, but that is actually not what's functional. What's functional is doing practices like what we'll do today and like what every sister is going to share over this 8 weeks that are actually training your nervous system. I mean, you see this with the Wim Hof, right? You get in that cold plunge. That's a training. So that when you get into a fight or flight situation, like you're going to find in some way, fire or not, catastrophic fire or not, you're going to be like, okay, you know what? I'm scared. I'm devastated. They're capable. I'm strong to be inside of this energy. So the practices that we'll do today, I want to do a little bit of Kundalini yoga. That's been my primary training. I also trained in non-linear movement with Anne Bancroft and Mary Overland. Those are my somatic movement teachers. And I've been trained in Ayurveda and raw food veganism and just like any sort of like dietary lifestyle. I've done it, I've practiced it, I've trained in it. So I have a lot of different things that I pull from. The thing that we can do with what we'll do today is we'll really go into a nervous system training, and which is both deepening and somatically available to like, you know what, I need to move this and my body knows how. So that's what we're going to do. Any questions, JJ, any questions from you before we go? Yes.
I have one little question. I just wonder, you've gone in and out a little bit in your reception slightly. I don't know if it's just me or if anyone else is experiencing it.
No, I think
I'm in California right now. Really bad internet connection because like I've been going in and out all morning where I am too.
Okay, so it's just California. And guess what? We're just going to hold the space and we're going to be fine.
Okay.
Great. Great.
All right then. Okay, so then I'd like to start with just closing your eyes. And please have your hands on your knees. And let's take some deep breaths into your belly, starting like a very classical yoga experience. And let's actually do a little JJ move where you start to rotate the body from the base of the spine, rotate at the sit bones and the tailbone, rotate the tailbone in the bowl of the pelvis. And just see how that starts to discharge the energy. Any fear, any stress. Anytime we talk about going into the shadows, there's an automatic bit of fear where you're like, oh no, what am I going to find? I don't want to look there. I'm tired of looking there. I don't want to experience this anymore. But it's not that scary. So just let this movement it's comforting. Give yourself a little bit of comfort. A little bit of holding. A little bit of soothing. And then as we're moving, I'd like you to go inside and look for the deepest pain. What is the thing that you just want to cry and scream about? It hurts. It's that thing, I'm tired of this. This is the thing I'm tired of. I'm over it. I want to have my say about it. And just contact it and just breathe with it and move with it. And own it, honor it. It's powerful to hold it. It's powerful to hold it without reaction, without contraction, without fear, without aggression, just neutral, just real, just true, just real. And now I'd like you to just start to take your hands off your knees, free your hands. And just see if you can stay inside of the psychosomatic feeling, but the hands are free. So you didn't lose it. You didn't pop out and try to cover it up. You didn't go light and polite. Oh, everything's fine. Everything's fine. No problems here. You're letting your body have movement. The body has movement inside of this thing that automatically you freeze up around. Normally you freeze up around. Trauma is the frozenness. Metabolization is the learning, the evolution, the power, the character building, the beauty, the love. And then I'd like to see if you can transition yourself onto your hands and knees. So stay in it. Don't lose it. Don't lose it. And if you lose it, that's okay. Just find it again. And just start to be on your hands and knees. And start to bring the fuller part of the body into it. The shoulders, the spine, the hips, the elbows can bend, the neck, it can move. And you just start to move with your rage, with the feeling. I think this one of the scariest shadows can be rage. Someone didn't protect you. Someone hurt you. Someone didn't protect you. You deserved protection. You can pull that up now. The fierce warrior, you can pull it up now. And move like that. And if you can, please, you can use your sound. Ugh. Ugh. You connect it. Connect the sound and the movement. Ugh. And move your body in a way that starts to free it up. Expand it. It's okay. Expand. And if you can't expand, there's a place where you're like, I can't expand that far. It's too much. That's also okay. We're expanding the capacity. We're expanding the nervous system now. Ugh. It was not fair. It was not right. You will not tolerate it again. You come out for your own self. Just move it. And move in the way that you need to. This is now you. This is now getting in the body. A lot of times when you get into the real shadow, when you really get into it, boom, that's when you pop out. You don't want to be in it. Ah, I can't do it. You pop right out of the body. Disembodiment. Disembodiment is disempowerment. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. I don't care. It feels silly. Go back in. So please keep moving. I'm going to start to play some music. And I'm going to start to let your body guide yourself inside of the music. And you're going to release whatever you need to release. You're going to metabolize whatever you need to metabolize. You're going to discover we're coming into a new space of your ability to sit inside, to really take ownership of your totality. Totality. No one is all sugar, spice, and everything nice. And we know that, but it takes expansion now. Expansion. Expansion. So just stay with it. Don't drop out. Don't pop out. I'll find our music. sound and let it all go. Let it go into all of it. Maybe there's something erotic that needs to come out. Eroticism is a total place where people shut down. It goes into the shadow. I don't feel comfortable in my erotic self. Most people, that's not saying me, most people do not feel comfortable in their erotic self. That becomes part of the shadow. Anywhere where you have discomfort, that goes into the shadow. Let's move it now. Good, and stay with it, stay with it. Don't lose it. There's no music propelling you, so there's nothing creating the emotionality, but don't lose it. Stay inside of it. And as you stay inside of it, you might lose it a little bit, but I'd like you to come slowly rolling up and come onto your feet if you haven't already, and just stay inside it. You have to practice it. Practice it so you can stand for it. Whatever the rage is, whatever the shame is, whatever the fear is, find it. And just find your feet. Find your feet. Find your feet. And as we started, when we were sitting, just start to move, sort of gyrate, spiral very gently on your feet. So you find the motion. You find the motion. We're very lucky to have so many beautiful examples of the divine feminine in all cultures. But in the West, we're not trained early on necessarily in the wrathful divine femme, right? We sort of have a beautiful example of the Mother Mary, so pure and divine, but she doesn't express wrath. She doesn't go into fierce defense mode. Absolutely not. Not on my watch. Absolutely mother effing not. So I need you to find it now. And that is a scary moment. Kali is scary. She is stomping on people. She's got her tongue out of her mouth. She's drinking fire out of a skull cup. Around her neck is a bunch of skulls. This does not look like a friendly, cuddly person or a supermodel or, you know, something that is popularized in the Western media. But I need you to find that power now, and I need you to let it run through you, through the back of the legs, through the feet, through the spine, through the fingertips, and you might feel literally nervous. Literally nervous. And I need you to move anyway. And move it. Silly, if you feel silly, it's fine. Just move it. Find your feet. Connect the voice, please connect the voice, make a sound, even if it's hard to get out, even if your throat stops out, even if it sounds ridiculous. You just have to do it anyway. It's just part of it. Stay with it, stay with it, stay with yourself, take a breath. You're moving it, you're metabolizing it, you're owning it, so just stay with it. Maybe you've pushed this far before, maybe this is nothing for you, maybe you've never pushed this far before. So just stay with it, it's okay, you're totally safe. And let's just try this in a new rhythm, new frequency. Just stay with it. Find the rage, find the eroticism, find it, find the expansion, find the liberation. It takes so much strength, courage, fire, ferocity to liberate. Liberate. Good, stay on your feet. Stay on your feet. And we're just gonna smooth it out now. Again, everything in this whole series is going to train and adjust your somatic capacity to run normally shadowed energy, things that you don't want to look at. But now you have movement, shaking, letting it out, touching it, finding it, touching it, not letting it go, and then incorporating it. But stay with it. See if you can now, instead of it being chaotic, so when you first feel something, you don't want to be, right? We have suppressed feeling it's powerless. We have addressed healing, can often be reactive. Then we have finessed feeling. We want to finesse it. We want to finesse it. So just go into the finesse it now, but don't lose it. We're not taking it away. We're not going back into the fake zone. We're just metabolizing it, moving it with a little bit more self-command. Inhale. Exhale. Stay with yourself. Stay inside of yourself. Don't reject anything, but come to sitting. But don't reject anything. We don't know what's going on, what you've unraveled, what you've unlocked, whether it's an immense amount of primordial grief, grief for this earth, grief for the pain of the people on this earth. There are so many people in pain, whether it's the grief for your own self, for the ways you weren't protected as a child, for the ways you haven't protected yourself now as an adult, because you couldn't quite figure it out. We don't know what's unwinding inside, but don't reject anything. Don't reject anything. I'd like you to sit in silence with your eyes closed. And just be in stillness. and being self-loving. You are so good. You are so wonderful. You are so beautiful. And just see if you can sit here for another minute or so. On our first call, we had a sister mention how difficult it is to quote unquote meditate. Right now, we're not trying to meditate. We're not classically meditating. We're just being present. We're just deeply listening. And we're practicing. We're doing nervous system practices. We practice running a huge amount of intense energy through your body, proving that you can handle it and stretching your capacity to handle more. And now we're training the nervous system to handle stillness. You can handle stillness. You can handle silence. So just sit with me in silence for this minute and a half.
सुनिए सिद्ध पीर सुरना सुनिए दर्द दबले आँखा सुनिए दीपलो पाता सुनिए बोल न सकेगा नानक भगता सदा विकास सुनिए दुख पाप का नाश नानक भगता सदा विकास सुनिए दुख पाप का नाश नानक भगता सदा विकास सुनिए दुख पाप का नाश सुनिए सिद्ध पीर सुरना
And please inhale and exhale. And I have a little meditation that we could do, but I also thought, JJ, that this might be a time where we could potentially pause and chat, answer any questions. If there's time to do the meditation, I can do it. If if people don't want to talk, if they're not up for talking yet, I can do the meditation now. But
Thank you, dearest. Did you hear me? I said
didn't hear you.
thank you. I feel like we should let people speak if they are awake and willing, and
Agree.
give the talking stick to the group. If anyone would like to share anything that came up today, last week, any questions for Harmanjot, observations, feel free to jump in.
Thank you. I think an important, sometimes people don't want to share after sort of like a big release like that. This is perfectly fine. I think some important things I'm going to talk while you sort of like figure out if throat chakra expression is the order of the day for you. I think important things to note for somatic releases of this kind is that when you've stretched your nervous system to a degree that you're not normally used to, it's very important to be tender on yourself for the remainder of the day and potentially the remainder of the week and always and forever. But certainly in this next 24 hours, just to be super gentle and tender with yourself, very loving. And this is where the lifestyle practices that we always hear about, but hydration, it's pretty basic, but if you hydrate, you're going to move actually the biochemicals out. So there's a biochemical component here. There's a lot of release of your body, a lot of release of toxicity. So the water that flushes and it hydrates you, it hydrates the nerves. Watching stimulants, watching what foods stimulate you in a way that is chaotic, and what foods and drinks actually help ground you, help your fluidity of expression, help you just stay with yourself and in the moment. What we consume has a very profound effect on our psycho-emotional experience. So those are two things that I think are very important just as takeaways. Herbal teas, like the basics, herbal teas, sattvic food as they call it.
Harmanjot, I think someone raised their hand. Whoever that was, you can just unmute yourself and speak.
That was me. Hi. I just wanted to say that this is my first time. I'm here just because my friend Irene invited me as a translator because she claims her English is not great. So I didn't know what to expect. And not knowing what to expect, this is the first time that I do a yoga session with disco dance music, and that was just awesome. And lots of emotion came up. Obviously, it was not like as deep as if I was by myself because I was translating a little, so there was a little break out of that state. But I'm looking forward to listen to the registration and try the exercise again and try it properly. So thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Irina and friends.
Anna.
Anna. Victoria.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you. And also, I noticed before I started how uncomfortable I was. And then there was a point where I was uncomfortable not doing it. And I'm just wondering if you could speak to that.
Totally. I think there is a certain point where you realize that it would be awkward not to fully embody and not to fully feel and fully participate. There's always that sort of like like middle school, high school sideline psychology. We're like, ooh, like, I don't know if I'm going to run a good mile, so I'm just not even going to try. You know, it's always, if you don't try, then you never look like a fool. But then at a certain point, you realize you look like a fool by not fully giving yourself over to it. I'm not saying you look like a fool, but just like it's actually awkward. It's actually strange to be like, I'm just going to sit out on the sidelines here because that's a little too much for me. And this is also just part of creating the tolerance. This is why you do sort of geeky, dorky, awkward practices inside of a container like this class today, or like any of the classes in the rest of this series. You do it inside the container because here it's okay to be awkward and strange in your working life, in your daily life. Like right now, I'm teaching a course on embodiment, and it's called body language. In your course of your day, you are never going to be like, hey, you know, like you're not a clown. And there are actual professional clowns, and I know some, but that's not you. So you're never going to go out like that. But because you spend most of the day sort of contained within a certain acceptable range of motion and emotion, going into containers like this allow you to stretch out in a way that your body actually needs to in order to metabolize some of these darker feelings. And it's okay to do it here because it's certainly not okay to do it elsewhere. So here's the place to look weird and strange and awkward. That helps in any way.
Yes, thank you very much.
I don't know how to raise my hand, so I'm just going to unmute if that's okay. I noticed, I feel like I have a very complicated relationship with rage. It's a powerful emotion, and I think as a woman, I'm always trying to figure out what my relationship with that emotion is and how to control it, really, especially as a mother.
Yeah.
And I was dancing at one point and I opened my eyes and I saw what you were doing to kind of, I think you used the word metabolize, like when you were kind of bringing the feelings in towards the end. And I had this incredible moment of really seeing rage as a positive emotion in that moment and watching this screen full of women letting out all these like raw emotions, and it gave me such a positive feeling. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. You know, it's really interesting. First of all, we all have the rage. And I think this is a huge shadow for most people, but particularly women. You know, in the West, we'll just say in the West, the masculine has had a lot more social entitlement to rage, and that's changing. You know, that social mores and norms are changing all the time, but in the historicity of it all, women have been much more disenfranchised from this feeling, but it's critical. And so we're all learning about that. So the fact that you have at least a certain amount of contact with it that feels like a lot is an enormous positive. And when we're dealing with our children, finding outlets that allow you to own all parts of yourself without it, I'm not spilling out onto them or, you know, scaring them, is very important. But they need to know that you're okay with it too. That mom's
Yeah. And something about like dancing it out feels so positive, you know, like all of a sudden it was like this light bulb went off about like how much positivity there is in rage and how powerful it is as a positive feeling too. So that's a big shift for me today. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Julia. Yeah, there's a lot that can be done. A couple of people in the chat asked some questions plugging into creativity, and then someone asked about lower back pain in which they have an old injury. So I want to just address the injury first. And they said, can you speak to these types of manifestations? I don't know everything about your injury, how it occurred, if there was an accident, or if it's just something that has like manifested itself psychosomatically. You want to move tender, you want to move to your capacity without injuring yourself. So if you have an injury, just move tenderly and find out where you can, how you can move the feeling, the psyche soma, without creating more injury in your body. And if you want to look into the feeling, the psyche soma behind the injury, you can do that. You can just talk to it. You know, I feel that the world is very evolved right now. And I feel that people know so much, and I can never tell how advanced a group is. So I'm just, if I sound like, oh, Harmanjot, tell me something I don't know, I'm sorry, I just don't know where you are. So I don't know if you know how to talk to your pain or if you have permission to talk to it, but you just talk to it and let it feed you the feeling. And as it feeds you the feeling, like little by little, you know, you just take a little sip of the feeling. As it feeds you the feeling, you can move it. You can move it, you can metabolize it, you can speak to it, you can vocalize, you can verbalize. That pain's this thing that I, and you take just a time to do this at any time. You know, we've got to find, there's so many self-healing practices, but one has to find time, whether it's once a week or once a day, 20 minutes, to just sit and start to unpack for yourself these things that are going on. In terms of plugging into creativity, removing energy blockages. Sorry, there's an African tortoise who's just coming to say hello to me at this house where I am. I believe that at the basis of every difficult feeling is the desire to transmute it. And that transmutation is the creative process, right? So, you know, sometimes we look at the world and we feel like, what can I do with everything that's going on, whether it's political or ecological, or maybe you can take it down to yourself. Like, I think it's better to look at the world in this context. What can I do? Well, just the transmutation of the feelings is part of the creative process. It leads you to, well, I can be nicer to myself and others today. That's creative. I can make something that empowers and uplifts people today. That's creative. I can, if you're a classical artist, I can paint something that shows people how to do this, because we live on a polarity planet, so we'll never get out of the pain, and we don't want to. It would not be as fun if you don't put salt on the cookie doesn't taste as good. So we need to have like that salty kind of like weird spice as part of it. I don't know, JJ, do you have anything?
You know, I was feeling a lot with the comment on rage, because I feel like it's such a misunderstood emotion when we were talking about that. And I think the instinct most people have with anger is like, I have got to quit this immediately, control it, stomp it out. It's a big effing problem. And when you do that, when you take that approach, you're snuffing out the wisdom of the rage. Like, there is a golden nugget in the base of every angry sensation that you have. And the trick is learning how to care for your rage before you go out and do collateral damage on anyone or any relationship, including yourself. So if you can get creative with your anger, just like Harmanjot was showing us, of like embodying Kali and like wearing your skeleton necklace and start like doing the whole, I mean, sometimes what I do with the rage are like the pull down goddess, and then that, like doing a huge fire breath and then of like letting it out. Like, you know, you and I do this all the time, Harmanjot, but like just to share it with people, like if you can really go full force Kali when you're by yourself and allow that to spin through your system, you'll eject it. Like, and I mean, I think that the difficulty is like, we don't want to, the goal is not to eject emotions. Like if that's your goal, then you're always going to want to jump them. You're always going to want to do what we call spiritual bypass, which is like a no. So you kind of have to go through the emotions in order to actually metabolize them properly. And that's why this practice, plus I would say, don't you think, Harmanjot, breath work is so great for metabolizing anger? I don't know what else you think helps, but ecstatic dance.
Yeah, we did like a classical somatic movement practice today, but breath work, which we'll do with Frederica, and the bathing is also going to help. And when you do the, the Kundalini meditations, you're holding your arms in very uncomfortable positions for extended amounts of time, but that is just to give you the nervous system stamina to do it. Contracting, shaking. JJ, I wondered if we might actually, like, maybe we might draw down a little goddess energy.
Let's do it.
Ah, just please sitting with your eyes closed. And just noticing wherever you feel nervousness, like true, like, ooh, apprehension, just, it's okay. Just breathing with it, letting it be, closing your eyes. JJ and I, when we get to be together, which is just so incredible, we draw down the goddess energy. So if you can just sit and breathe, let the weight come into your legs and your lower body so that you're grounded, anchoring like a magnetic weight, heavy magnets in the legs and the buttocks, just to keep you solid on the ground. And we'll just call upon the goddess Kali, the wrathful mother, the wrathful divine femme, protector of all, not women, not babies, not men, protector of all, everyone, he, she, they, it, me, we, thee, us, them, all, protector of all and all your incarnations and all your iterations, and also all of your own distortions, protector of you and your weirdness and this sort of rebirthing as you birth yourself and come out of your sticky sac, amniotic sac, and you start to open. Protector of you, protector of you, protector of all. We call down the goddess Kali. Om Namah Shivaya Ram. It is not okay. It is not okay. The aggressions, the transgressions, the destructions, the distortions, the way that Mother Earth has been taken. It is not okay. But we can purify it. Exkamani. Protecting you through all timelines, all space and time. Correcting and clearing. We are not afraid of ourselves in all the different aspects that we are. We are not afraid. Please just take your hands up like this, up in front of your throat. You're going to hit the sides of the index fingers together. The right thumb is going to cross underneath the left. Hud, and then flip it over, hit the pinky sides. Hud. Eyes are on the tip of the nose. Hud, Hud, Hud. Use the navel point. Hud, 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 and inhale with the palms open. And hold it like you're just asking for something, you're receiving something. Let it fall into your hands. And blow out into your palms through the mouth. And inhale. And hold it. Feel it landing in your hands. Like your hands are filling with honey. Heavy, warm, sweet. Exhale into your palms. Inhale. Hold it. Feel it landing in your palms like honey. And exhale into your palms. And release the hands. And there's nothing to do today. Nothing to change. There's just letting the energy circulate, metabolize. There's the tenderness with yourself and the tenderness with others. There's the noticing of the moment. And in the moment, if it's right, there's the connecting of the sound and the word to the experience, to the expression. I love you, and this needs to change. I love you, and I'm scared. I love you, and I've had enough. I love you, and I'm not backing down. I love you, and I'm fucking furious. And we're going to work this out now. I love you, and all I want to do is love you. Can we find a way to make it work? I love you, and all there is love. Even the pain is love. Even the darkness is love. Even the ugly, yucky, scary, icky, crunchy, ferocious parts are also love. I am loved all the time. I am loving the challenge. I am loving the dark. I'm getting to find out how dark I really am. And there's power in that. Satnam.
Satnam, baby. I loved that last little buttery, I love you and I'm fucking furious and we're gonna work this out right now. I wrote that down. Wasn't that the best, you guys? We should make a t-shirt that says that.
We should.
We're gonna work this out right now. Laura Southern, I saw that comment.
We're working it out right now.
It's so good. It's so good.
This has been incredible. Thank you, JJ, and thank you, Nicola and Laura and Julia and the sisterhood team and the Double J team and everybody in their sisterhood. It's really great to be all together and to meet like this.
We love you, baby. We're here for you. One thing I would love to do, I hope you guys won't think we're trying to be pushy, but Harmanjot has a GoFundMe for building her home. So if anyone would like to participate with that, I hope, I just think it's a nice thing. Maybe with the recording, we can include the link to that as well. It would be so beautiful. Any contribution, small or large, is just to show her how much support she has. And yeah, we love you, honey. You're wonderful. And the big turtle creeping by at one point was priceless. Did you guys see
This
that?
big African Saharan turtle over here.
It was so great.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the sisterhood. This is an amazing beginning for all of us, for all of us. And your journey is really critical. I really believe that everyone's personal journey is so essential. It couldn't be more important. You and your journey couldn't be more important. The deeper, the stronger you get, then we all get to go.
We love you, everybody. Thank you for joining. Harmanjot, I can't thank you enough for showing up today. You were brilliant, and we will be sharing all of Harmanjot's contacts, but you can find her on Instagram. She's got an amazing webpage. She's offering so many great classes. So she's just one to follow, to seek out for guidance and to meet with in person when you're in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I'll be hosting an in-person event next week on the Lunar New Year in Culver City. And it's really like an amazing time to have a Lunar New Year, because we had our New Year and then we had so much happen and collectively, I feel, on the globe, not just in the West and in the United States. So the fact that we have another New Year coming up, it's just like, okay.
Fresh start. Let's
Absolutely.
do that one.
Absolutely, completely new now. Yeah, my pleasure to be with all of you.
Love you guys. Ciao tutti.